Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to Apex Racing TV. We are here for our second Super Sunday event from the SRF Weekend Warriors, or well, from the Weekend Warriors. This time, it is the SRF's our Spec Racer Fords, and well, this should be a pretty interesting day indeed, I'm sure. I'm Tom Dillon, and standing in for Tim Cox today, alongside me is Charles Beauchel. Charles, welcome back to the SRFs. I know you've done a little bit of this before with Tim, but new season, not a new season, but a newish season here with us. 2 rounds to go now, and well, it's been fantastic action all year.
Yeah, thanks for having me in, Tom. Always happy to jump in and lend a hand when needed. Yeah, the SRFs. I love watching these races, calling the events. It's always good fun. I think this is going to be a really interesting track layout today. So I think I'm looking forward to a really fantastic race.
Yes, well, this is Snetterton, except we have moved out some of the wiggly bits. We cut through at Montreal into Williams Corner, and we just go straight down the Bentley Straight, and that is our track here. I definitely have a track map in front of me, by the way. I haven't driven much of Snetterton myself, despite being British. I haven't actually raced here, been here, done much, but anyway, it's an interesting layout of the track indeed, the alternate layouts, and well, we're in our qualifying session right now. Not much to speak of in terms of, oh dear, there is something to speak of in terms of bodywork flying everywhere. That's the 27 car getting caught up in a little bit of well, unsavoury action there for a moment. It's not much to speak of in terms of lap times at the moment. We have got a man on the top. It's Dudu Castro, who's been in fine form recently alongside Marco Pinero, who is in second. Remember, in the SRF Weekend Warriors, you just have a couple of laps to get yourself done. In fact, I take that back. You actually have it unlimited laps in this session. Got mixed up between my leagues there, but 20-minute session, unlimited laps to get done in it. We've only got a couple of minutes left though, and there you can see the timing tower on your left-hand side.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the, as you were talking about, this is the what they call the 200 layout. I actually have driven this track a couple of times, some iRacing leagues that I've done, and it's a fun, and I really like the 200 layout. The infield is a very technical section, and I'm not a very technical driver, so this So this is a nice long track with a couple of really predominant straightaways with some tight corners at the end of them. So it's going to make these spec racers these drivers really enjoy this because they love getting these long toes down the straights and making moves. We'll see, 3 or 4 wide at multiple points during the race. So this is going to be a very, very fun race to watch.
So Dudu Castro is at pit exit. Marco Pinero is on an out lap, making overstreet. We're on board with the number 44. Is on a timed lap. We'll go into the chicane here and try and get a better lap time onto the board. Fifth actually is pretty high for Megan Overstreet. She's high flying, has to get past that car on the left-hand side. Driver's left, just pulling over to the side of the road, making a slight mistake. I believe that was actually trying to see who went off track, Michelle Vaglini. So that would be who's gone off there. Let's see what Megan Overstreet can do. Heading through the final corner here of Murray's. Also the only track I know of that has the corner names literally on the side of the road here as we go down the centre straight, apparently. Crossing the line, Megan Overstreet. Will there be an improvement? And it doesn't look like there will be. Gardini jumps up into 6th position. So Megan Overstreet having to take another lap here. We're on board with your Masters pole sitter, Hjorg Marnik. And, well, Hjorg had a difficult couple of weeks. I believe Charles, I didn't see him last week on all difficult qualifying session now, though he has got that pole position so far.
Yeah, Jorg is. I mean, he's had some bad spells, not just in the spec racer, but in the Formula Ford also. But very, very quick racer. He's always, even though he's one of the elder statesmen of the series, he's always running up front until issues happen. So, but as far as outright pace, I mean, he's always top 5 every track we're at. So I don't expect anything less from Jorg.
Here's Marco Pinero, last chance to try and get himself up onto the pole. 1/10 of a second in between it, less than a 10th of a second. Actually, it's just about 200ths between the two of them. We'll see what Marco can do here as he comes out to the back end of this Snetterton circuit. It is going to be one last little attack from that number 16 to try and bump himself onto the pole. Dudu Castro, perhaps a slight upset for that pole position. I think Pinero would have expected to have it wrapped up by now. He's got to attack through these final few corners. Here he goes to the Brundle and Nelson chicane, and then opens the car back up as he goes right around that top loop of this circuit. If it was an oval, think about it. There's sort of turns 3 and 4. Here he goes then. What can Pinero do? It's not a particularly impressive lap time so far. He's not lighting up the timing boards. Yellow in all sectors. Hugs that inside line through there. Now into Murray's. Dips the car in. Just trying to make sure he gets the better exit. However, he's all over the grass there. And that is him throwing the towel in as well. So he knew there wasn't going to be anything in that. 200ths is all he needed to improve by. And unfortunately, 200ths was not found. So it is Dudu Castro who is on pole position, barring anything here miraculous from the number 32 car, who is going to come up to the line of Andrea Dantas, and I don't think be in with much of a shout. Megan Overstreet also not on an improvement. So pretty good lap from Dudu Castro and a pretty good result for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Going back and reading the notes, prepping for the race, Pinero's been on a tear, won the last 5. So you would expect to see him up on the top of the timing sheet. But yeah, it was a great run by Castro to get the pole. It appears. Then it was still got a car or 2 out on track, but as you said, not a lot of fast sectors being had as we see Overstreet coming into the pits. I believe that's it for qualifying.
It is, and we can go to the results. Take 10 at a time because we've got a very big grid here. Actually, if I say big grid, we've got 27 cars. That's actually small for the SRF Weekend Warriors. I have to say, here's the championship standings just before. So in the Spec 1s, Marco Pinero leads. We've come to a margin to Jason Green. Should have wrapped that up actually. if I'm not mistaken, with just 2 rounds to go in the season. Megan Overstreet is in third. And it's Evandro Dantas, Kane J. Lasky, Bradford Gould, Flavio Indalo, Claudio Andrea, Daniel L. Wood, and Andrea Favini, your top 10. As for the Spec 2s then, it's Alan McCain, who has a relatively comfortable lead to Philip Berry. Then it's Kenneth Bately in third, Joshua Justice and Jeff Rubka rounding out the top 5. Ian Gibson, Paul Jackson, Michelle Verglini, Aaron Vogele and Caleb Pocock, the top 10. And finally, the Masters. This is probably the most interesting of the bunch because Tom Gradwell has a reasonably slender lead to Jim Brewster, Jorg Marni in third after a run of difficult results for him in the mid-season. Stephen Mitchell is in third, with Brad Cathcart just behind. Then it's Gianni Longini, Kurt Nunes, Adam Bradshaw, and finally Chris Murakami. And well, as for the results of that qualifying session, the grid ahead of this race, the safety car gets ready to lead them off. Dudu Castro is on pole position in the Spec 1s. Marco Pinero not on Spec 2, he's actually a Spec 1 driver, so he's in second, so just slightly ignore that thing on our overlay. Evandro Dantas is in third. Then it's Jorg Marni and Megan Overstreet in fourth and fifth. Claudio Gardini, KJ Lasky, Andrea Favini, Jason Green and Dan Wood. Well, there we go. We're about to get into this one. And Charles, how are you seeing this grid stacking up?
You know, I haven't done it this year, but see a lot of very familiar names that I'm used to seeing up at the front. Pinero, Castro, obviously very, very talented drivers. They're always up challenging for wins. Monty, Dantas, Megan Overstreet, who is just doing fantastic in the Formula Ford. I think she's pretty close to wrapping that championship up, if she hasn't already. So yeah, it's you know, what we're going to see is we're going to see these cars on takeoff. You'll see them spread out as wide as they can, and probably more than they need going into turn one, and it's going to be very interesting.
Here we go then. Green, green, green is the call from the engineer on the pit wall, and it's Dudu Castro with a fantastic start. Tucking in behind is Marco Pinero in that number 16, just behind Evandro Dantas, sitting in third. Megan Overstreet is under a little bit of pressure early on from KJ Lasky as they go through into turn one. No doing just yet. Lasky will look to the inside line and try and send a dive on Megan Overstreet. That's exactly what he does. Overstreet locks up, almost goes straight on. That allows KJ Lasky to slide through into fifth position. Now actually it's Claudio Gardini in seventh, who might be trying to attack Megan Overstreet. We'll wait and see how that stacks up. There is some side-by-side running for the minor positions at the top of your picture. Montgomery has just got past Bately, but otherwise it's been a very, very clean start. Let's have a look at what KJ Lasky can do into the chicane. The answer is not much, but Charles, a reasonably clean start. In fact, I say reasonably, a very clean start, 3 wide at the back.
Yeah, absolutely. A fantastic start. Yeah, everybody just got single file line. Not something I would have expected. But yeah, there's still a few battles in the back. You know, people shuffling around trying to get a position here and there. But as you said, just, you know, everybody lined up and just started the draft train, and we'll see how that takes us down this during this race.
Here we go then, starting lap 2, Dudu Castro at the lead of this mighty, mighty train. It's only actually the bottom 4 that aren't in this leading train. However, there's a slight breakaway from the top 3. 22.2 is the lap time across the line for Dudu Castro. That will obviously improve as we go throughout the course of the next 40 minutes or so. We're looking focused on Phil Berry. He's trying to attack the 28 car, almost collected by Kurt Nunez just behind him, but Phil is able to march on in that Spec 2. There's, well, really, all of the drivers just tucking into that slipstream. Again, it's a very oval sort of style circuit here in terms of how it's got so many long straights, this Snetterton 200 layout, that I think really what you do inside of the wiggles isn't particularly that important, Charles.
It's really not, but it is important to the fact that when you get down that back straight, Bentley, that first left-hander, you have to really time that well, which is, I think, Brundle corner, to get into the right-hander. It requires a bit of finesse through there, because otherwise there's a monster sausage curb on the inside of the right-hander that will just take these cars and send them into space. So they have to be very careful in managing their pace through there. But yeah, these cars, you get on the straightaways, and you just kind of run in line and wait for the first mistake to make, and then you move forward from there.
Side by side, Kurt Nunez on the inside of Phil Berry will try and get the later of the braking. There's a lockup in the background. That was Josh Justice. Can he get his way through? He can, Kurt Nunez. So he is through as they go through the chicanes and just about able to get himself up into 12th position. There is a breakaway though, as we started to see that train that was practically 23 cars long. That started to slow down a little bit and widen out. Joshua Justice is on the inside line of Phil Berry, will dive to that inside line and find his way through as well. Up into 13th position overall. Occupies second place by my reckoning inside of our Spec 2. Remember, Marco Pinero not in the Spec 2s. He's only 0.3 of a second off of the lead of the race. So keeping an eye on that as well. It appears here, Charles, we've got two sort of breakaway groups. So you've got our top three there, right and up in the front. And then we've got these guys and back. This is York Marnie. He's in the Masters lead, was in the Masters lead for a moment, but actually KJ Lasky has got to his outside line and has got through as well. So York Marnie loses out on that Masters lead that he's held for the last 4 laps or so. And after getting that pole as well, he's now under pressure from Megan Overstreet. So I don't think York Marnie is going to be too interested in formation flying here, as we often see.
No, York's not one for staying in line or saving fuel. We've talked to him after races before, and he's pretty much foot to the floor as much as he can go. So what they're going to want is they're going to stay in line. Like I said, you'll try and take your opportunities where you can, but the only way these cars behind will catch the cars in front is if the cars in front start doing some battling amongst themselves. As long as the Castro, Pinero, and Dantas stay together and just run nose to tail, it's going to be very tough to track them down, because obviously they were the 3 fastest cars in qualifying, and it's like I said, it's just going to be tough to make up that ground.
Overstreet trying to set up a little bit of a run now to Murray's. It's going to get the power down very early indeed. York Marnie just ahead of it, and York Marnie might be finding himself under a great deal of pressure here as KJ Lasky starts to run away with that Masters lead a little bit at this stage. Pit stop is going to be ahead of us. Meanwhile, we switch over to the battle for the lead. 3-way battle for the lead. Castro, Pinero and Dantas. This is slightly unusual for Marco Pinero, who usually is at the top of the field at this stage in the running. This time he's playing a bit of a role reversal, trying to attack his sort of, well, late season rival here in Dudu Castro. They've been battling for race leads pretty much the last 5-6 races or so. They've really been fascinating to watch, but right now they are formation flying, and it seems to be a little bit of a trend in their battles, Charles, in that they don't want to attack each other until the pit stops happen. Then the pit stops come, and it is potentially gloves off between the two of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's that is one of the things I do remember is Pinero is very conscious about trying to fuel save and make his pit stop as short as he can to give himself an advantage. And if he's not in the lead, he's very content to just kind of hang there and ride and save fuel behind the car in front. Maybe give him a little bit of a push here and there if he can, and then they'll save that battle for the last 10 minutes of the race or so.
That being said, Dudu Castro felt the need to defend slightly as they go down into turn 1. Turns out he didn't actually need to defend because there was no dive ever coming from Marco Pinero just behind. We're looking at Jeff Fritschett. He's trying to attack Favini, and in fact Favini in that 27 makes a little bit of a mistake through turn 1. That allows Fritschett to go around the outside line. Is he going to be able to find the move though? He will. Cuts to the apex first and gets himself into 9th position. That was a very opportunistic move. I don't really think Favini saw it coming. Marnie is back past Lasky. That is for the lead of the Masters race. Jason Green has passed Overstreet for 6th position overall. So changes in this top 10 on lap 6 of the race. We're approaching quarter race distance already. But, well, we're starting to see interesting little battle of strategy starting to form here.
Indeed, yeah. It's it's early But you take the chance, or that was a great move on the outside. I'm sure he was thinking, okay, if I can manage to stay even with him in the hairpin, I'll be on the inside for the exit of Montreal. And it worked out for him. He didn't even need that. He just was able to just make that jump earlier. But you take there's there are mistakes that are made in the corners, and that's where you're seeing these passes, because they're able to get better runs down these very long straights and makes those little passes down for position that much easier.
So KJ Lasky is back past Jorg Marnie, who has to take to the escape road and is off track, falls all the way down into what will be 11th position once he gets the throttle applied again. So that is 0-0 from Jorg Marnie, just squeezed onto that grass. I wonder if we could get a replay of that. Jason Green has capitalised. He's back past KJ Lasky, as is Megan Overstreet. And we have got that replay coming up for you, which is being spooled by our producer and sorted out. But that is frustrating for Jorg Marnie. KJ Lasky's got a lot of defensive work to do. Here is what happened then. Jorg Marnie is trying to attack KJ Lasky. Makes the mistake all by himself. In fact, had already got past KJ Lasky. Kane goes up the inside line and drives into him, from my perspective there. Charles?
Yeah, it's what it looked like. Jorg locked up going into the hairpin, pushed the car wide, and Kane used every ounce of the track, every inch of the track to make the corner and come through. And yeah, there was a little contact there with Jorg. And, we'll see what the stewards say on that one. They could say, once Monty's off the track, it's no longer his line to have. And Lasky had every right to run that racing line through the corner. So we'll see if there's anything that comes of that after the race.
Yeah, well, my personal opinion is that should be on Lasky. However, we don't, I believe, have post-race penalties in this league. Someone in chat might wish to correct me on that one. Last time this issue came up, I seem to remember it came down on the side of we aren't actually running post-race penalties. But I think just a little bit of frustration for Jorg Marnie, and that will end at that. Megan Overstreet, this is what we're looking at, the battle, trying to attack Jason Green, KJ Lasky trying to make up some positions as well. We talk about it so often about how aggressively you race someone who's not in your class. Now, obviously, you gain points overall. It doesn't matter where you finish in class. So, obviously, the winner of the Spec 5s, the winner of the, there you go, I think of Israel League there. The winner of the Masters will not get scored as the winner of the Masters. Will just score more points than anyone else in the Masters. It is an overall scoring. However, I always think you want to get that win anyway, so you're not going to race particularly hard. That being said, KJ Lasky is trying his best to pass Megan Overstreet here, and I don't think being too nice about it.
Yeah, these drivers, I've been around them enough to know that they're really good about talking through issues that they've had on the track, sorting it out. It's a really tight-knit community. Generally, there's not a lot of hard feelings. Obviously, with a little contact like that, a little frustration when you make a mistake and then you get kind of added on to by somebody else. You get a little frustrated, but I think that's generally done and over with pretty quickly. I haven't really seen any kind of major flare-ups from these drivers. I won't say guys, but I always remember Megan's in here. So yeah, it's it's a really, like I said, it's a really tight-knit community, and they generally get things sorted out amongst themselves.
Brad Cathcart has jumped into the pits as Kurt Nunez has gone off track, and he's losing a couple of positions. Oh, he loses a lot of positions actually, all the way down into 18th position before he gets himself back going. Adam Bradshaw has left pit lane, as has Brad Cathcart. So obviously issues for them at this stage in the running. Here is that gap that the top three have got to the rest of the runners, just sort of outside of the top five. So your top four all the way through to I think about 11th position here. I can't see quite who's at the very back of this train. It involves KJ Lasky trying to attack Megan Overstreet though, and Kane will have a nice little run here as he goes down the inside. Should get ahead of Megan Overstreet here. I don't think she'll fight it particularly hard, and indeed she doesn't. That gives KJ Lasky the run and through. That being said, Overstreet goes back down the inside line. This is onto the straight. Overstreet will get the slipstream off of Jason Green just ahead. That's a little bit of a helping hand And considering Jason Green is off of the racing line there, I think that's an intentional little bit of a helping hand to Megan Overstreet. We'll see what the 43 can do as he goes back up the inside. That is Jeff Fritcher gets through on KJ Lasky. So Lasky loses a couple of positions. Overstreet on the curb. Overstreet goes to lose out completely here. It's a huge power slide. Holds onto the car, but I don't think it will be worth much because Megan Overstreet falls from outside or inside of the top 5 to outside of the top 10.
Yeah, that was a. I think the help on the inside going down that straight was beneficial for her to get around Lasky, but I think the entry into that corner from that line kind of got her a little switched up, and that inside curb there is horrible, and you could see it. Just watch how she just was bounced over that thing. So she's lucky to still have a car underneath her, and she can at least reset and try and make up some of that time. And I think we were talking earlier. I think Cathcart, Bradshaw, and now Woodker. I think those were all pit stops. I think those were all their mandatory pit stop during the race. I say mandatory, meaning they needed fuel. I don't think those were for damage anything. I think that was just maybe an undercut, or soon maybe the undercut might work today.
Fritcher is going to go to the inside line. KJ Lasky on the outside line. Fritcher will find his way through. There's not going to be an attack in the background from Gardini, who seems to have come out of nowhere here. This all helps Jason Green, who has gained about 2 seconds on the pack behind, so he's in no man's land completely here. 6.4 to the leading Gaggle, and then 2 seconds back to the nearest competitors behind, so he can just do a little bit of fuel saving all by himself for a bit. And I wonder if he'll choose to drop back. Back market traffic as well. 15 minutes mark in this race is going to start to play a factor. Dudu Castro there in that 73 is going to have to try and get around the 309. 309, as I look through my timing screen, is right at the back, isn't it? Is that Alan McCain, I believe? No, it's not. It's Jeff Rubka, thank you very much. Yep. There you go. So they've passed a few back markers already. Kurt Nunez has jumped to pit lane as well, by the way. He's going to... I wouldn't expect that to be a scheduled stop here. No blue flags in this league, so we'll see if Dudu Castro can get through without losing too much time. Might actually allow Marco Pinero to have a little bit of a battle. Will it allow Avandro Dantas to try and get through? He's certainly going to give it a go. Here goes Marco Pinero trying to attack that number 73 of Dudu Castro. Backs out of it completely. And that, I think, is pretty indicative of how they want to run this race.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's just that we're going to ride in line. We're going to stay where we are until we get to the pit stop. We'll settle this in the last 2 or 3 laps of the race.
And dangerous way to run it, I think. I always think you want to be in the lead as long as you can, but obviously pit stop strategy is a huge, huge factor in this league. It's something that we're also seeing here amongst these guys, not really wanting to battle each other too much. And in fact, I think if you look back at most of the things that have happened, they have stemmed from mistakes. That being said, I think KJ Lasky will fancy his chances at leading this train for a little bit. Of course, they've got cars to catch up to. Will Lasky bump draft down the straight? What he's doing right now. Will he go for the move though? Bump drafting that number 43 and then backs out very early, making sure that he is the earliest on the brakes through that corner. Fritcher is feathering the brake as he goes to the exit, just trying to make sure he doesn't run wide there. That cost him a little bit of time, but again, when you're doing this weird game of running line of stern, you don't really care about losing a couple of tenths of a second, because at the end of the day, it's not going to have too much of an effect. That being said, Ian Gibson, I see on my events page here, has crashed, so it will be interesting to see what's gone on there. I don't see him coming back onto the track, but I also don't see him losing any positions, so I don't know, we'll wait and see what's happened there.
Yeah, we'll have to, yeah, maybe that's just a lag or something. I'm not really sure. So
error, I think, that there.
As we see, we're back on to Kane Lasky, just running P6. Right behind Fritcher, who I think, I'm going to guess, is a Richard Petty fan with the baby blue number 43. Just a wild guess, but we'll see as we see Dan Wood coming into the pits. I think these are the early stops we'll see with Wood, Nunez, Viglini, coming in. We normally have a few cars that will try an undercut strategy to see if that works. I think that just happens to be one of them. I think, as just from what I remember, from about the 11-minute mark to about the 31-minute mark is anywhere in there. My guess is you'll see the top three, Castro, Panero, and Dantas, stay out as long as they possibly can, and try and make as much ground up on the cars behind as they can before they come into the pits, and make those really quick pit stops in the last 12 or 13 minutes of the race.
I would say even less than that. I think Castro, Pedero, and Dantas will be wanting to eye up probably 30 minutes plus as their pit window. They want to be running out of the pits probably six minutes or so at most. That's what they usually do, and this isn't a particularly high fuel consuming track, you wouldn't think. Lots of full throttle zones, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're consuming a lot of fuel, I would imagine. There is a battle further ahead, but there isn't. That's just a lapping manoeuvre taking place. This is a train that is currently being led by Jeff Fritscher in that 43, and he's breaking away a little bit. I also wanted to draw your attention to the fact that Alejandro Dantas is 5.2 seconds behind Marco Panero, so that top three train has turned into a top two train, and Alejandro Dantas now falling into the clutches of Jason Green. Not by a lot, though, because it's still 7.2 seconds. The gap, I believe, actually, that makes it about 2 seconds, the gap. So there is Alejandro Dantas, and you can see the cars behind that are giving chase. Where is Jason Green? It's not too far behind, so it is only about 2 seconds between the two of them. So that gives Jason Green a fantastic opportunity of getting a podium here in this race. He's got to bide his time, perhaps think about pit stops more than anything, because that is the, as we've mentioned in this broadcast, that is the main delta that you can gain. You can gain so much time in the pit stops that you won't be gaining back out on the track. So you don't necessarily want to be pushing this car to its max just yet. Wait a little bit of time. If you've got the better pace, naturally you've got the better pace. But I think Jason Green is smart here and will run this race well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, obviously, I think Dantas may have made a slight error. Once, you lose a second, you're out of the draft of the two cars in front.
And Marco Panero are right next to each other. Not much to speak of there, as these two have been running line of stern pretty much all the way throughout this race. They have, however, Charles, not actually got any company now, so suggest that if there was going to be any time to have gloves off before the pit stops, it's now.
It would be. This would be the time to do it if you were going to make a move and try and get out front.
We've got a little bit of an issue hearing Charles here, so we'll. I don't believe it's on my end, so we'll just press on here in this one. As I hear something in my ear there for a second. But, we'll just press on. 20 minutes into this race, we've got 19 to go. And, well, it's 4 tenths of a second. I'm slightly confused. I did have my Discord pop up that I was really lagging there for a moment, but we're okay. I think we're okay. Charles Beauchamp, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, Tom. Can you hear me?
Okay, so I can't hear Charles. Charles can hear me. Joshua can hear Charles. There we go. That's all a little bit confusing. KJ Lasky is on the inside. What I think I'm going to do, gents, I'm going to jump out a second of the call, and I'll jump back in a second and just make sure that's okay.
All right, so we'll continue here with Lasky and P5, and we'll see if Tom gets his audio issues sorted. As we see Monty and Overstreet, looks like they're taking their pit stops. I do agree with Tom, though. I think that the two leaders will stay out there, and if they're going to battle, now will be the time. If not, I think Panero, as I've seen before, is just content to just ride in P2 and stay there, conserve his fuel, try and make that pit stop short. And yeah, they'll go as late as they can. And 7 minutes may be the number. It's going to be within the last 10, though, I think. So it wouldn't surprise me if they stay out there as long as they possibly can. I'm not really sure about the fuel numbers. I wish I could give you some really good data on that. As we see Favini running in P8, Spec 2 class. I'm sorry, Spec 1 class, my mistake. It's about 12.5 seconds off of the lead. He's in a group. He's in this battle here with Lasky Fritcher, Gardini, and yep, the group of 4, running from 5th to 8th. Let's get a look at Brad Gold, who's back there with Jim Brewster. A little 2-man battle there. This is the in the Masters class, Masters and Spec 1, as we see, with Brewster being a Masters driver. I think was actually one of the top drivers in Masters and the overall championship for this year, or this season, I should say. Tom, have you got us? Can you hear us?
I have got you, Charles, finally.
Awesome.
And to be honest with you, I don't think I needed to be the call at all because I started being able to hear you towards the end. But thank you for bearing with me, everyone. My audio just suddenly cutting out for a moment there. Created a bit of an awkward moment. Bradford Gould is on the inside line trying to find his way through on Jim Brewster. And he's going to do exactly that as they hit the braking zone for Brundle Corner. They will get through Bradford Gould, and I think he'll be happy with that one. I should probably get to talking about the lovely RaceVoice, which are our sponsors here in the SRF Weekend Warriors. I haven't actually been given their proper sponsor read, so I will just tell you to go out and have a look at racevoice.com. They offer some fantastic little insights into the world of sim racing, a nice little, I believe, crew chief-esque tool that you can use there. So racevoice.com, supporting the SRF Weekend Warriors. And in fact, I found the sponsor read, so I can tell you that they've got 16 different notifications: upshift, downshift, over rev alert, corner entry, corner turning, corner exit, immediate feedback on vehicle performance. So make sure you go and visit racevoice.com. I wonder if any of these drivers are using it. KJ Lasky sitting in 5th position. However, he is under pressure from Jeff Fritscher in that 43. Jeff is going to try and get his way through. However, KJ Lasky holding firm. Up and down race for KJ Lasky. Has run as low as I think about 8th, but also now running back up in the top 5.
Yeah, he's having a really good run. He's been very consistent. As you can see, he's in this battle here. Lasky, Fritcher, Gardini, Favini, running pretty much nose to tail. They're kind of the second big group of cars. Obviously we've got the 2 up front, Dottas and Green. Looks like Green is starting to close that gap down, so that may be another 2-man battle before we get into our pit stops. So it'd be interesting to see if he can tighten that up beyond that 2.5 he's behind.
And well, we can have a look at the lap times between these drivers. Actually, Megano Street, who's running in 16th at the moment, has the fastest lap time of the day, a 1:18.3. Expected that 22 that was being run earlier to definitely decrease. That's exactly what has happened here. And obviously now drivers down in the 18th. We're seeing Jeff Fritscher doing all of the bump drafting here. Will he go to the inside into Brundle Corner? He won't. Almost collects the back of K&J Lasky, but in the end is going to stay line of stern. Now dives to the inside line. That should be a move. Jeff Fritscher does exactly that. Capitalised on a slight mistake, I think, from K&J Lasky there. And, well, you can see that it is a very busy day for Jeff Fritscher. Up 7 positions off of the start. The highest position gainer, though, is actually Volbolt, sitting in the Masters, down in 15th. 10 positions he's gained throughout the course of this race. Let's ride on board for a moment as we see, actually, ignore that, because Castro and Pinero just battled for the lead of the race for a moment. That's unusual.
Yep, saw the change on the timing tower there, and it's like, okay. So it looks like maybe Pinero dove to the inside, but or dove the outside, but Castro was able to hold the position. Just a little late braking, but yeah, Lasky looked like he caught that sausage curb on the inside there with his right rear. Just kind of bounced the car, got the car unsettled, and couldn't quite hang on to it. Was able to allow Fritscher around. So we see the replay here, the battle for the lead.
So Pinero was going to go to the outside line. Did that. Not able to get through, though, obviously, all the way around the outside line. And just not able to find the braking performance in that race car. Very difficult to make a move there. And I think that was the end of it as well, wasn't it? It was. So
Yep, pretty much. Just like an overspeed kind of overspeed moment there for Panera. Oh, as we see,
into
that's
the pit lane is
Castro in the pits. Yep, Castro in the pits.
early. That's early from Dudu Castro. Slightly surprising, actually, and he'll come right out into traffic. So perhaps not the greatest of decisions to pit this early for Dudu Castro, though I speak very early indeed. We'll see if that is actually going to have an effect negatively on him. Marco Panero then leads here, as he did for much of the race last weekend in Spartan Aston, actually, for much of the season. Marco Panero has won every single race but 3. I count on my results here. That is an unbelievable run for him. And, well, it looks to continue here in Snetterton. All he needs, remember, is 0.3 of a second over this little mini stint, the back end of his first stint of the race, over the car behind, which will be Dudu Castro. This is the battle continuing. KJ Lasky this time behind Jeff Fritsch. 4th position this battle is for now, of course, with Dudu Castro coming out of the pits. He's not in traffic, by the way, because he's managed to get ahead of Gibson and is in 8th, pretty far behind anyone else on this grid. We've got 11 minutes to go in this one, all to play for. I said it was early, Charles. What are your thoughts as Panera's into the pits as well?
It's Panero's in the pits. I think Castro may have had to come in, judging by the fact that he came in a lap earlier than Panero. I'm guessing he came in because he's been leading the race, so he's been burning more fuel than the cars behind. So kind of makes sense. He came in when he needed to, and now Panero is able to go an extra lap because he's been behind saving fuel for most of the race. And we'll see where this all shakes out as we come through.
So Dudu Castro is there in 6th position. Will he get through on Marco Panero? By the looks of things, he won't. So Panero,
wow,
has gained.
Oh wow!
How? That's 5 seconds.
It was 3.5 seconds on the stoppage time in the pits for fuel. It was Panero with basically a 9-second flat stop, and Dudu Castro with a 12.5 second stop. So there's 3.5 seconds of time gained just on the pit stop.
It's unbelievable, and well, that is what Marco Panero does. I can't quite believe he's gained that much time again.
Well, it makes me wonder, because I've seen this before with Panero, and he'll be the first to tell you he gambles a little bit on fuel strategy. He was 2 seconds lap, or 2 seconds faster than everybody else who's been in the pits. So I think he's thinking that this is going to go 1 lap less than everybody else is thinking, or everybody else is just playing it safe and he's cutting it close. So we'll see how this is going to shake out.
Of course, he has the ability to control that as well. If you think back to Brazil, when we had that finish that was actually controlled by, or Fuji as well, controlled by the leader who slowed down to make sure they got that one less lap in. That'll be interesting. Out of the pits, Jeff Fritsch is falling behind, is he? Interesting to see what happens here. It reminds me almost of an IndyCar race where you think you've got a hold on pit stop strategy and where everyone is going, that all of a sudden they do actually pit, and it all gets thrown out the window because Overstreet is suddenly up into the top 10, and she's now chasing down Jeff Fritsch, who is finding himself behind Gardini, Dantas and Green. York Marnie up into 10th. This is on Megan Overstreet. It's a brave dive. It is a dive for a man who is having a very difficult afternoon. York Marnie saving face and actually getting himself up into the top 10 spots.
Yeah, he's doing his best to try and make up the time that he lost with a couple of bad corners, and so we'll see if it's going to work out for him. If he can hang on to that, he'll give it his all, but he'll race it clean. So it'll be fun to watch to see if he can progress, as there's still Lasky and Favini in the pits now. So I think there's only Bradford Gold. It seems to be the last person to pit, and he's in the pits now. So I think that's everybody cycled through.
And once everyone is out at pit exit, we'll see exactly how that is stacked up by the looks of things. Favini and Lasky are going to get ahead of the cars, are they? Fritcher is on that outside. Fritcher's under pressure as well from Gardini. Gardini will actually find his way through on Jeff Fritcher. I think he's in 7th position. He will. So Favini finds himself into 6th. Lasky secures what should be an easy top 5 here now. So I think he'll be happy with that, with the pit racing, or the pit stop strategy. So with 7 minutes to go in this race, it is 7 minutes to go in this race indeed. It should actually be a pretty decided contest here, which gives us a chance to shout out our other sponsor, Apex Racing Academy here. 29 data packs of setups, track guides integrated with VRS, and weekly group coaching sessions on Apex Racing Academy, supporter of the series, and of course, one of many wings of the Apex Racing UK company. And well, go and check that out to improve your driving on the sim. I know for sure I could do with an improvement in my driving on this sim, Charles.
Oh, I absolutely could. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's got that 2.5, almost, it's actually 2 seconds over Fritcher in P6. But then, you know, Lasky's kind of out there by himself, but you've got a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars, Fritcher, Favini, Gardini, Monty, and Overstreet. They're about 3 seconds from front to back. So if they get lined up, it's possible they can use the draft to make up that time. We'll have to see. Yeah, that would be the only way, obviously, for them to challenge, is they're just going to have to work together and try and make up that time to get up to Lasky to make that a battle. But it looks as if, as we see Favini going by Fritcher on the timing tower, it's going to be hard. It's 2 seconds with 5-6 minutes left. It's going to be very tough to make up that time unless Lasky makes a mistake. As we see the replay here with Favini, it's like they're going down into the hairpin, and yeah, it looks like a lockup from Fritcher. Takes him wide, gets him offline, gets wide coming out of Montreal, and that was a fairly easy pass. Favini just had to kind of stay out of the way. So it was nicely done by him.
Overstreet running in the top 10. We just saw a clip of that. Now a battle for the podium positions. This is Jason Green in that 160 car in 3rd position. Might get a little bit worse for him here as Evandro Dantas is trying to attack him. Dantas has occupied the podium for most of the day. Jason Green got past him, and Jason Green, for the time being, stays past him. Bradshaw has made a mistake. He's fallen down a couple of positions. He was off the track for 5 seconds there, Adam Bradshaw, so that's perhaps what happened to him. Now as they go down onto the back straight of this Snetterton circuit, we'll see if there's any slipstream to play with for Evandro Dantas as he's trying to get his podium spot back. Dudu Castro, but he hasn't caught up to the lead of the race. He won't catch up to the lead of the race with 5.7 seconds to try and grind through, but he has got past some back marker traffic, so he can at least say that he's going to secure this 2nd position. I'm sure his time to win will come, despite a plethora of 2nd place finishes for Dudu Castro. Hasn't actually won a race yet this season, which is well, going to be mighty frustration for him. I'm sure his time will come. It will have to come next week now, of course, the last race of this season. Dantas is on the outside line of Green. Will try and get a switchback. Perhaps it won't quite be found for him now, though. Has a fantastic opportunity and a wonderful little run out of that final corner of Murray's. Will he get to the inside line? This is for the podium positions. Evandro Dantas, gloves up now. No fuel saving involved in this one. Goes to the inside line, gets himself back into the podium positions that Jason Green was fighting so hard for. Not over yet, though. Charles.
No, not at all.
I made your name French there for a moment.
That's fine. That's fine. I think actually my name is French, but that's okay too. So yeah, it's not over yet. Obviously, with these long straightaways, you get a good run out of the corner. Green can absolutely take that spot back with probably 2 laps left. I would guess. I do see the gap from Pinero to Castro getting a little closer. I think it's dropped about a half second. So makes me wonder if Pinero is doing a little fuel saving up front. Now that he's got that nice little gap, he can afford to do a little lift and coast to try and make sure that he gets it to the end of the race.
Well, this is battle going on for 15th position. Gianni Lanchini under pressure. They're going to go 3 wide as they run into Brundle corner on the inside line. Oh my word, Jim Bruce has got a view of this. That is very, very awkward indeed. And well, Lanchini is in 14th position. And that's pretty much all that happens from that. But Joshua Justice comes out of it unscathed as well. Only just though, with 2 minutes to go in the race. Will we get one more lap in? So here, where's our race leader right now? I can't quite figure that out. They should be coming on to start their final lap next time by, I think, or this time by, I should say.
Going to be pretty close. I'm not really sure, but yeah, we'd have to see where they are. He's coming through in the bomb hole now. So he's on the back third of the circuit. As we see Castro, the gap's down to 4.7. So I definitely think Panero is trying to stretch that fuel for as long as he can. I will go back a season. I have seen Panero, and the reason I say this, and I kind of harp on it a little bit, is he was leading a race by, I want to say 10 seconds at Brands Hatch. Did a short fuel, ran out of fuel on the last lap. It should have been an easy victory. I think he ended up 15th or something like that, as he just kind of coasted across the start-finish line. So it's happened before. So I just want to kind of keep that out. And as we see the gap now is under 4 seconds. And Dontros back by Green again. They're still swapping that position back and forth.
And this time, it's on the final lap of the race. So Evandro Dantas gets himself into prime position to come home with a podium. And I don't think Jason Green is going to have too much he is able to say about it. Never mind anything he can say about it. Here is Jorg Marni, 9th position. Good recovery from him as Jeff Fritscher to try and get past. Jeff himself is trying to get past Claudio Gardini and, of course, Andrea Favini after a very roller coaster type ride for him. Just ahead, I can see Gardini trying to get past Favini himself. This should be the final lap of the race. We've got 15 seconds to go before the checker flag will fly. On the outside line then is Gardini in the 33. Will he get ahead into Brundle corner? This is for 6th position, and he will. So that's a spot made up for Claudio Gardini, and I think he'll be pretty happy with that. What can Jeff Fritscher do is he's not quite able to dive up to the inside line. We've got the checker flag flying, so I think Marco Panero has indeed won at this race. He does cross the line now. There he is. Marco Panero puts one hand on the championship. I think he's already wrapped it up with a race to go. Dudu Castro crosses the line into 2nd position. Frustration for him, not able to go that one step extra so far this season. Here is a bit of a drag race to the line then. Jeff Fritscher will try and make up what positions he can. What could Jorg Martin do in the background as they cross the line? There is indeed no change for the position once it's all said and done, and the top 10 sorts itself out. But Charles, that was a very entertaining race of strategies, I think, predominantly.
Absolutely. I think that was the thinking man's race for sure. Playing the fuel strategy or fuel mileage game, getting that short pit stop, getting out front. Panero did a great job, managed it expertly, takes the win, 6 in a row. So not unexpected that he was going to be somewhere up around the sharp end. But yeah, great race. Still battles all over the track, which is what we always love to see with SRF.
Yes, and we'll get your results to you in just a moment's time. We're waiting for them to properly build, and we'll take you through them. Then we'll also talk to a couple of our drivers as, well, giving it a moment. We have to wait for, first of all, everyone to cross the line, and then second of all, the systems to sort themselves out. Here we go. So Marco Panero wins. Dudu Castro in 2nd. Evandro Dantas rounds out the podium. Jason Green in 4th. Kane Lasky taking home the Masters win. Claudio Gardini wins in the Spec 2s. Andrea Favini, Jeff Fritscher, Jorg Marni and Megan Overstreet, your top 10. And it's Dan Woodfield, Berry, Bradford, Gould, Gianni Lanchini and Joshua Justice. Jim Brewster in 16th. Ian Gibson, Nunez, Montgomery and Voldbot, the top 20. Only 27 on the grid today. It is Brad Cathcart in 21st, Tom Gradwell 22nd. Then it's Ken Bately, Jeff Vubka, Adam Bradshaw. All of these guys are lapped down, by the way. Michelle Vaglini, and your only retirement from the race, Alan McCain. So we have got an interview up, and Charles, I believe as Tim would say, you've been able to grab Jim Brewster.
Absolutely. Jim, congratulations. Good race from you. How did your race go in your eyes?
Well, it was pretty quiet. This place is really tricky, but nothing compared to, we ran V's and Fords over at Detroit, the Concrete Canyon. So we all were like breathing a breath of fresh air with all this grass to spin into and no concrete. But I chased my buddy Chris McGarney the first half of the race, and then Joshua Justice the second half of the race, and just, try to keep pace and hope my fellow other masters weren't as lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back and trying to run Detroit, I take this track every day, twice on Sunday.
You see how unpopular it is, though. There was nobody in the officials here this week.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's odd. So anyway, hey, congratulations.
Thank you much.
Yes, sir.
That was Jim Brewster. I think about time as well. We drag up Hjorg Marnie for a quick chat. Hjorg, welcome along to the broadcast. First and foremost, how are you? And second of all, that was a very chaotic race, and I think you didn't quite get what you wanted from it, but it was a good recovery.
Actually, I'm doing good. First of all, it was weekend over. Races are, so la la. Yes, it was definitely chaotic. Like I said last week, it's, I'm racing here. Look what's happening, and you saw what's happening.
And, Snetterton, an interesting track. How does it stack up in terms of a challenge compared to the other ones that we've seen this season?
It's especially the first hairpin. It's quite difficult because I knew I'm quite well on the brakes there. But several times the guys ahead of me were braking so early I had to lock up my tires. The last time I almost crashed out Megan. And it was kind of weird driving on the track. I didn't feel actually so racy today, so I just hope I don't crash out anybody. So goal achieved, I would say.
Thank you, Jorg, for joining us, and we'll speak to you next week.
Yeah, all right. Thanks a lot, guys. Good night.
And time for one more or two. I think we'll go two more. Charles, we'll grab someone into the box. Hope if you managed to have a chat.
Jason Green ended up P4. So congratulations. Great race on your part. Probably good battle there at the end. You'd probably like another straightaway to get that spot back from Dantas, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a good battle. Being a mistake or a couple of mistakes really on that last lap, trying to get past and then repass him. So, overall it was a good race. I didn't think getting up into fourth was possible, just because I was starting so far back. Everything worked out.
So what we're asking guys what you think about the track. Obviously not a lot of doesn't get a lot of usage in iRacing. So how much time did you put into kind of prepping for the race?
Oh yeah, I did a bunch of practice this week, and I really enjoy this track. It's super challenging. So it's you have to, especially the last sector with all of those kind of unique corners, you don't really get to drive anywhere else. So it's I really enjoy it. It's a challenge.
All right. Well, congratulations on your P4.
Thanks, y'all.
Yep.
Thank you, Jason, for joining us. And one more. I think we can squeeze it in. I believe we're dragging Phil Berry up into the box. Phil, welcome along to the stream. Looked like a pretty interesting run today. 12th in the end for yourself. How did it go?
I actually had the best race of the week here today. One mistake, and that was it, and that was the second last lap. But I was expecting Alan to come and kick my butt like he usually does, but didn't show. Well, he joined, but yeah.
I suppose you can call it a success then, can't you? That's fantastic. One more race to go in this season. How overall do you think it's panned out for you?
I've had some disasters there just because of incidents with other people and my own mistakes. But I'm actually looking forward to Oran Park. I love the place. It's a fantastic little track to race.
Yeah, track I think I must have driven in official races, but apart from that, I've not done much of that track. So I'm excited to see how these stack up here. Well, I'll ask one more question then. How did you find the traffic today? Because obviously Snetterton's quite a small track. I imagine it was a little bit for you.
It was a bit of a train at first, but we sort of fell off the back of the pack, and when Kurt had a bit of a lose in front of me, I lost the draft to him. So I thought that's when I'll jump in and pit, and then just pretty much circulate it from there. Yeah, if you don't have the draft here, it's you're sort of nowheres. And it's a tough track to pass on too.
Yes, well, Phil, thank you very much for joining me, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. See you later.
And, well, that's just about all we've got time for here from the SRF Weekend Warriors. We do it all again one more time at Oran Park next weekend. Same time, same place on Apex Racing TV. Thank you to Charles Beauchel for joining me, Josh Wilkie on production. We'll see you all later. Good night.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.